Genius Warlock. Chapter 316. The training progressed with remarkable smoothness, benefiting both the fighter crew and Kevin alike. At this pace, the fighter crew was on track to nurture new recruits within a year, while Kevin's growth as a warlock seemed destined to be trouble-free. Kevin's inherent aptitude for understanding and sensibility allowed him to grasp new concepts effortlessly. It was no surprise, considering he was already a master in the magic tower. Moreover, there was more good news: the training at the magic tower proceeded even more seamlessly than anticipated. "I think I've got it now." A young woman in her early 20s, adorned with freckles and orange hair, beamed with excitement. She was a student from the alchemy school who had decided to retake Kevin's magic combat basic class. While Oliver took over as her instructor due to her lack of foundational knowledge, this time, she diligently persevered in following Oliver's guidance. As Oliver observed the students in the training room sitting in a row, each honing their mana flow techniques, he couldn't help but think, she's not the only one. These diligent students dedicatedly embraced Oliver's teachings, sweating through their practice of sequential mana flow. While many encountered challenges along the way, they remained steadfast in their efforts, and Oliver readily assisted those who struggled to find their way. "Excuse me for a moment." As Oliver addressed a student from the Gaia faction, he gently placed his palms on the student's back. To add flair, he furrowed his brow, pretending to experience some discomfort. In reality, he wasn't fatigued at all and could have achieved the same effect with a simple touch of his fingers. However, he deliberately put on this show, claiming it was a technique from the Far Eastern desert, all to create an impressive spectacle. "It's working." "It works," the student exclaimed with surprise, satisfaction, and joy upon receiving Oliver's intentionally non-technique technique. Initially, everyone had their doubts, but as reactions like this multiplied, doubts turned into belief. They began to accept the supposed authenticity of the technique. Of course, there were some challenges. "Excuse me. Could you help me too?" a student from the Mjolnir faction requested. Unlike the others, this student had joined during the current semester and felt dissatisfied for not having received Oliver's assistance. I'm sorry, but could you practice a little more?" Oliver politely declined. It wasn't because he didn't want to help, but rather because he believed there was still room for the student to develop and grow independently. Oliver wanted to encourage self-reliance and progress through individual effort. Lately, Oliver had been teaching a considerable number of students, which allowed him to assess their potential for independent growth with just a glance. In the case of the Mjolnir faction student, Oliver believed he had the capability to improve on his own, but the student had chosen not to. When Oliver explained this, the Mjolnir faction student openly displayed his dissatisfaction, both in his facial expression and emotions. "Why are you discriminating?" the student questioned. "Pardon?" Oliver replied, taken aback by the accusation. "I've noticed it since the last time. You always seem to help the retaking students. Why are you discriminating?" "I paid a lot to take this class." "Oh. I'm truly sorry if you feel that way. However, Mr. Edwin doesn't require assistance just yet," Oliver explained calmly. Addressing the student by his name, as he had done with the fighter crew and the Joseph family, Oliver made an effort to remember the names of all his students. He believed it was a simple gesture to show respect and dedication. "I do need help. I've been struggling for days." "Or are you implying I'm not trying hard enough?" Edwin retorted. "Yes," Oliver replied firmly, surprising the onlookers with his polite yet resolute demeanor. His response seemed paradoxical, Yet it felt natural. What did you say? I said Mr. Edwin isn't practicing properly. No, I mean, I just asked you to practice a little more. On what basis dash? You keep losing your strength at the last part of the sequential mana flow taught by Professor Kevin. It seemed like your concentration was dropping, so, I'm sorry, but could you please concentrate till the end, just once? If you don't fully exert yourself until the end, there's no point in me helping. If you still can't do it after trying, then I will help. Confidently and accurately, Oliver pointed out the specific problem Edwin was facing in his mana flow. The other students watching could sense that Oliver's observation was spot on. An awkward silence enveloped the room. Edwin, feeling exposed, remained speechless for a few seconds, realizing the accuracy of Oliver's assessment. The Magic Tower students who witnessed the exchange intuitively recognized Oliver's adeptness in identifying and addressing the issue. Before Edwin could respond, someone entered the training room. It was Kevin. Is the class still in session here? Kevin's voice carried a hint of mana, causing everyone to flinch. As one of the professors known for his intimidating presence at the Magic Tower, Kevin's arrival surprised Edwin and the others. Only Oliver greeted him normally. Hello, Professor. What brings you here? I came to find you because you hadn't left even after the class ended, Kevin explained. Checking the clock, Oliver realized that about 5 minutes had passed beyond the designated class time. He had been so engrossed in the lesson that he hadn't noticed. Oliver offered his apologies to Kevin and promptly concluded the class. You all worked hard. We'll end today's lesson here, and I'll see you again tomorrow. And Mr. Edwin? Yes. Yes. As soon as we start the class tomorrow, I'll take a look at Mr. Edwin and those who are taking this class for the first time. I might not be able to provide immediate assistance, but I'll give you some guidance on what to focus on. I apologize for not paying attention until now. Edwin nodded in response to Oliver's considerate words, slightly overwhelmed by the situation with Kevin's presence. As the students dispersed like receding tides, Oliver efficiently retrieved cleaning tools from a toolbox and swiftly began cleaning the training room, completing the task in just 5 minutes. That's impressive, Kevin remarked as he had waited instead of leaving first. I suppose I've become adept at it from cleaning every day. That's not what I meant, Kevin clarified, noticing Oliver's subtle pride. Oh, then what do you mean? You've been consistently coming here even though the semester has been ongoing for quite some time. Ah. Oliver understood what Kevin was referring to. Typically, by this point, Oliver would have taken a break to work as a solver. Thus, Kevin's comment was not unwarranted. Is it possible that you're unable to handle your work on the solver side? Kevin inquired as he accompanied Oliver back to the lab. No, that's not the case. There's no problem with the solver's work. Of course. You successfully solved a major case in Landa this year and took down the living legend of Landa. Kevin was alluding to the ABC Investment Company case and the Shamus case. Though not long ago, it felt like ages since Oliver had heard about it. Thanks to these cases, Oliver's reputation had skyrocketed more than he had anticipated. In fact, the value of the name Shamus exceeded his expectations. Forrest had even suggested that if things continued this way, Oliver could become one of the leading solvers representing Landa. Or did you encounter issues with the Moirai faction? No, that matter was also resolved smoothly. This was indeed the case. While there was a bit of a problem with the Moirai faction due to Oliver's unilateral release of Eve, it had been neatly resolved through reports and several meetings. Could it be that your reputation has increased so much that it's becoming difficult to handle? This time, Oliver shook his head in response. Oliver's rapidly rising reputation posed a potential danger, like a jagged stone, but Forrest reassured him that he didn't see any imminent issues. Landa's political system, with its checks and balances, along with unofficial alliances with the city and support provided to the fighter crew, played a role in managing the complexities. For now, time is the remedy. As time passes, the strong impressions will naturally fade, and the jagged stone-like situation will subside, becoming an integral part of the city, Oliver explained. That could happen, Kevin agreed. As for taking a break, there's nothing particularly special about it. I earned quite a bit of money from my last job, and I'm also working at the tower, so I just wanted some rest. You're diligent yet laid back. Well, it's your job, and it's none of my business. By the way, how many students do you think will pass the test this week? Oliver replied, about 3. The test was an exam that the students in Oliver's class took every Friday. It assessed whether they were ready to proceed to Kevin's class. Last semester, only Felix moved up, but this semester, more than 8 students had already advanced, a remarkable achievement. If things continue to progress well, all the students in this class will be able to join my class directly, Kevin noted. It's a bit surprising that there are no problems despite the smooth progress. The Magic Tower is a place where all sorts of things happen, both challenging and relaxing. If there were any issues, people would have already. Kevin's words trailed off as he noticed Derek anxiously waiting in front of his office. Derek, who had passed the interview with Felix and became Kevin's research assistant, hurried over as soon as he spotted Kevin and Oliver returning. Professor, what's the matter? Noticing a difference in the atmosphere, Kevin promptly inquired, and Derek, following Kevin's rhythm, got straight to the point without using courtesy language. A guest has arrived. Oliver was taken aback, wondering if someone from the administration had been sent due to their discussion about the previous class. Kevin asked, from where? A representative from the School of Life Magic. The mention of the School of Life Magic brought back memories for Oliver. It had been a while since the incident at the Mountain Pace Research Institute, but the name still carried significance. His interactions with the Life School had been subtle, but the memories lingered vividly. While Oliver recollected his encounters with the Life School, Kevin directed his attention to Derek and Felix, who were waiting outside. Do you know why someone from the Life School was sent? Well, I'm not entirely sure, Derek replied, surprisingly taking the lead in answering. The Life School does interact with other schools quite often due to its academic nature, but it's still somewhat surprising they came here. Your skin color, Professor. Derek trailed off cautiously, and Oliver immediately grasped what he meant. Within the Magic Tower, eugenics held a place of significance, with the Life School being particularly strict. Therefore, it seemed unusual that they would visit Kevin, who is a Redskin. Felix added with unease, and the person who came is. Who is it? Oliver asked, urging Felix to continue. Just as Felix was about to speak, the door of the professor's office opened, and a man emerged. To Oliver's surprise, it was a face he had seen before. It was Carl, the grandson of the Grand Master of the Life School and the person in charge at Motel Lab. Chapter 317. In his late 20s, possessing an almost ethereal beauty with radiant blonde hair, keen eyesight, and impeccable fair skin, Carl exhibited a healthy physique, neither overly plump nor excessively thin. His tall stature and upright posture further added to his commanding presence, all without the aid of glasses for his eyes. As Oliver laid eyes on Karl, the grandson of the Grand Master of the Life School faction and the person responsible for overseeing Mattel, he found that Karl remained unchanged since their last meeting. It was as though time had frozen, encapsulating their familiarity in a moment. While such a description might seem exaggerated, Oliver had complete certainty in its accuracy. Because they promised not to forget each other. Zenon. 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 Upon noticing Karl's gaze fixed on Oliver, Derek urgently grasped Oliver's shoulder and whispered loudly. Given Derek's physical strength, Oliver was drawn along involuntarily. Creating a path, Oliver stepped aside while Derek offered his apologies to Karl. I'm sorry. Professor Karl. He tends to drift off at times. Please overlook his unintended impoliteness. Even Derek, who usually exuded confidence, appeared noticeably flustered. This incident hinted at the extent of Karl's influence within the tower. My apologies as well, Professor. It seems Zenon caught you off guard. Felix approached with an apologetic demeanor, offering his apology alongside a subtle gesture in the form of a reassuring pat on Oliver's shoulder. With both Derek and Felix positioning themselves around him, Oliver's gaze shifted to Karl, who was intently observing him. Karl's eyes held a mixture of skepticism and inquisition, as if he were seeking confirmation for something. I apologize, Professor Karl. The surprise caught me off guard and led to my mistake. Oliver sincerely apologized after taking a thorough moment to study Karl. It was an admission of his error, one he felt compelled to make. Initially expecting Karl to merely disregard him and move on, Oliver was taken aback when Karl actually addressed him. Are you the renowned Zenon? Do you recognize me? Well, you're the remarkable individual who assisted us at Mountain Pace. Oh. I believe it was mostly luck. The accompanying solver played a significant role in resolving the situation. I've heard that you've taken on instructional responsibilities at the tower in place of the professor. It's primarily introductory training, and I'm merely following the professor's directives. But there's more to it, isn't there? Rumor has it that you're practicing an enigmatic technique hailing from the far eastern desert. How did you come by such knowledge? I'm sorry. Sharing personal information requires the professor's authorization. Even if the professor's staff are servants, they don't interfere that much. Interesting, isn't it? I don't know the details either, as it was set by the professor. I see. Quite intriguing indeed. I wonder what the underlying reason might be. The atmosphere began to subtly shift. Just as Derek and Felix were on the cusp of sensing an underlying tension, a foreign yet melodious voice captured everyone's attention. Professor. Have you concluded your conversation? In response to the vibrant and captivating voice, all heads turned in unison. Advancing towards them was a young woman in her early 20s, radiating freshness and vitality. Her beauty was undeniable. Her eyes, nose, mouth, and ears all seemed meticulously crafted, as if an artisan had meticulously designed and carved each feature. Her physique and proportions were flawlessly harmonious, akin to a sculpture brought to life through meticulous calculation. She extended a natural greeting to Oliver, Felix, and Derek, exuding not only her physical allure but also her social finesse. Hello. Are you researchers under Professor Kevin? In response to the stunning and vivacious woman's query, Derek spoke up, clearly familiar with her. Yes, it's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Rose. Oh, am I known to you? Absolutely. How could we not be aware of the young prodigy in the field of life alchemy from Rokuri University? Have you returned to the tower? Derek navigated the conversation adeptly. Curious, Oliver leaned into Felix and whispered a question. What is Rokuri University? It's like the equivalent of Gallows's Tower. A magical institution established by the royal family, boasting a history even longer than the tower itself. Its standards are exceedingly high. They share a sisterhood with the tower. Upon absorbing this well-known fact within the tower, Oliver couldn't help but let out an exclamation, "Ah!" While he might have appeared slightly foolish, his limited focus on tower affairs could be understood. Grasping Oliver's situation, Felix offered further context. Ms. Rose Dubois is a prodigy from Rokuri University. She's quite the celebrity. I'm genuinely flattered to be called a prodigy, and I thank you for the compliment, responded Rose, having concluded her discussion with Derek. Her interest now extended to this group, and her distinctive blend of sociability and beauty was swiftly eroding any barriers. Felix, slightly taken aback, responded, "Well, I was just relaying what I've heard. My name is Felix, a research associate under Professor Kevin. Pleasure to meet you." "Likewise, and who might this individual be?" "Ah, Zenon. I'm Zenon, a personal aide to Professor Kevin." "Ah, Zenon. I've heard about you. This is truly exciting. Greetings, the hero who came to the rescue of our life school faction. Meeting you has been a long-standing wish of mine, and now here you are. I'm truly delighted." Unlike the wizards Oliver had encountered, Rose spoke with effervescence. Yet, it felt entirely natural, aligned with her distinctive vivacity. But Oliver remained indifferent. For him, the inability to perceive her emotions was more significant. They were shrouded behind a dense, opaque barrier, preventing him from accurately gauging them, akin to a thick sheet of frosted glass. This sensation was akin to his interactions with Merlin, yet fundamentally distinct. The contrast was notably surprising. "Your lack of response. Oh. I must have overwhelmed you. Please allow me a proper introduction. I am Rose Dubois, an exchange student from Rokuri University. I had to leave last semester due to some issues, but now I've returned. Delighted to make your acquaintance." Rose offered a formal introduction and naturally extended her hand, indicating a desire for a handshake. As customary manners dictated, Oliver stretched out his hand. "Ah!" Just as his hand was about to clasp Rose's, Oliver abruptly retracted it, involuntarily emitting a sound. All eyes turned toward Oliver, their expressions marked by surprise at his unexpected behavior. It was a rather impolite action. The room fell into an awkward hush, the suddenness of Oliver's action suffusing the air with discomfort. Recognizing the tension, Oliver deliberated for a while before finally speaking up. "I'm sorry. I've never encountered such a beautiful person before. I made a mistake without realizing it." Both Derek and Felix blinked in disbelief, doubting their own ears as they stared at Oliver. The Oliver they knew wasn't someone who would utter such remarks. What made it even more astounding was how naturally his words flowed. While the room was momentarily hushed, struggling to keep up with the unexpected turn, Rose let out a soft chuckle and once again extended her hand. "You're quite amusing. You're even willing to say embarrassing things to a woman you've just met. Shall we attempt the handshake again? Take it slow if you're feeling nervous." Rose offered another handshake proposal. Just as Oliver contemplated how to decline, the office door suddenly swung open with a loud thud. It was Kevin. "Professor." I overheard something I shouldn't have just now. What's going on? Derek and Felix turned their gaze to Oliver directly. Oliver replied, owning up to his words. I'm not entirely sure of the details, but I believe it was something I said. A mild stir followed, but with Kevin's arrival, Carl and Rose discreetly departed. Derek inquired about the situation, leading Kevin to invite them into his office. He explained that there was a matter to discuss. An invitation to a conference. Yes, the School of Life Alchemy and the School of Life Magic at Rokuri University are hosting a conference and have extended an invitation to me. Oh. Congratulations, Professor. Derek and Felix exchanged awkward glances, clearly taken aback by the news. The information wasn't negative, but the circumstances were certainly peculiar. The life school inviting Kevin, a redskin, was unexpected. Kevin, aware of the unexpected nature himself, didn't address their reactions. Regardless, this event serves as a platform for collaborative research between the Life School and the School of Life Alchemy. It's expected to draw a considerable crowd from the Magic Tower, including department heads, Grand Masters, and One Masters. To be straightforward, would the two of you be interested in attending? At Kevin's proposition, Felix and Derek's faces brightened. Yes, Professor. If it's possible for us to attend, we'd be more than interested. Perfect. Then review and sign these attendance confirmations, and align your schedules accordingly. Fortunately, research associates invited by professors can receive financial support for expenses. Felix and Derek swiftly accepted the documents, examining them carefully. The conference appeared to be a more significant affair than they had initially assumed. Kevin also handed them a pamphlet for the conference. Study this beforehand. While the focal point is the Life School, representatives from other departments at Rokuri University will also be partaking in this 2-week conference. Endeavor to gather valuable insights that we can utilize. Yes, Professor. Absolutely. Great, wrap things up for the day, and handle the paperwork and scheduling I mentioned earlier. Draft a report detailing your plans for the conference. In a natural manner, Kevin bestowed upon Derek and Felix the gift of early departure along with a homework assignment. With evident enthusiasm, the two departed, leaving only Oliver and Kevin in the professor's office. They seem quite pleased. Well, such conferences don't come around often. Simply attending can broaden your horizons, and depending on how you approach it, you can gain invaluable insights. It's also an opportunity to make unexpected connections. That's why distinguished families often take their members to conferences from a young age. Ah, I understand. Can I go as well? Of course. Why the question? You didn't mention the staff members earlier. Ah, my mistake. I typically don't list individual staff members. They're akin to a professor's attire or shoes. You don't normally ask whether you should put on shoes before stepping out, right? Oliver more or less grasped the concept. In the tower's hierarchy, a professor's personal staff were regarded more as an extension of the professor than individual entities. As long as he could partake in the conference, this detail wasn't a major concern. Having handed pamphlets to Derek, Felix, and now Oliver, Kevin had smoothly distributed them. No separate application was needed. It was a product of being considered part of the professor's entourage. As soon as Oliver received the pamphlet, he delved into its contents. Inside, he found concise descriptions of Rokuri University, the School of Life Alchemy, a map, and conference details. The subjects covered intrigued both the layperson and the wizard, encompassing themes like chimeras, bodily suturing and regeneration, extending life through physical modification, the advancement of artificial monotank, procedures for superhuman physical augmentation, and more. While engrossed in reading, something caught Oliver's attention. "Professor? The conference falls within the vacation period. Is that acceptable? Is there a concern? Doesn't it overlap with the summer semester?" "No need for worry. Such occurrences are routine in the tower. Students can opt for earlier exams. I'll pay a bit more attention to the grading." "Is that allowed?" "Within the tower, it's customary to accommodate those higher in status. Moreover, it's advantageous for the students as well." "How so?" "If the professor conducting a class is participating in a conference, his students often have the chance to participate in the conference too. It's a form of privilege extended to professors to prevent any discontent." "I see. Consequently, in your upcoming class, make this announcement to the students and welcome those interested in attending the conference." Won't most of them want to attend?" Oliver inquired, drawing from the reactions of Derek and Felix as well as Kevin's explanations. "That's accurate. However, intent and feasibility can diverge." "What do you mean?" "Even if a student qualifies for participation, practical hurdles may arise. Take conference fees, round-trip travel costs, travel permits, accommodations, and living expenses for a 2-week event, and facilitation fees into account. It adds up significantly. At least 8 to 10 million, perhaps more. There aren't many students who can suddenly afford such expenses." "Doesn't the Magic Tower cover the expenses?" "That's only applicable to professors, research associates, and their personal staff. Students are responsible for their own costs." "So, what about students who can't afford it?" "Unfortunately, they're unable to attend." "Ah." Oliver let out a disappointed sigh. It was indeed disheartening. All the students in his class had been putting in their best efforts, and yet this was the outcome. Of course, this wasn't something he could take up with Kevin. After pondering for a moment, Oliver spoke up. "Professor, what if dash?" "No." Kevin decisively cut him off before Oliver could finish his sentence. It seemed he had anticipated what Oliver was going to suggest. "But I hadn't even finished my question. Your intention was to ask if you could cover their expenses, right?" "How did you know?" Oliver asked in amazement, wondering if Kevin had moved beyond understanding his emotions to predicting his thoughts. However, that wasn't the case. "I've observed how you manage the fighter crew. You've been providing all the necessary training equipment, facilities, wages for the instructors, and so forth." Kevin's statement was accurate. From the funds he received through the fighter crew's tuition fees, Oliver was covering everything from training gear and spaces to consumables and instructor payments, including for Al and Forrest. "You can do what you want with the fighter crew, but you can't do that while you are my staff in the Magic Tower." "Why not? Why do you wish to offer financial assistance?" It's within a range I can handle, and they're hard-working people, and it's regrettable that they're disadvantaged because of the circumstances all of a sudden. Isn't it pitiful if they can't learn because of money?" "Your sentiments are valid, but still, the answer is no. If you provide assistance like this, they'll turn to you for help in the future. Will you be willing to assist them again then? It could also reflect poorly on me." "Is that what you want?" "No. That's not what I intended. Furthermore, it goes against the regulations. To receive such support, they should seek aid from the Magic Tower or affiliated schools, or alternatively secure assistance from well-off individuals. That's the hierarchy. That's the rule. Wealthy individuals. Yes. The Magic Tower receives considerable investment from them, as there are numerous areas requiring funding. In essence, if you really want to help them, don't help directly, go convince some fat and lustful tycoon of Landa. If you manage that, there won't be any issues, and it won't concern me. That's why I've come here. Oliver concluded his explanation to Edith, seated across from him. Edith's reaction was colorful. This damn motherf. Chapter 318. This damn motherf. Edith interjected sharply as Oliver sought assistance. For a solid 10 minutes thereafter, he directed a barrage of profanity at Oliver, scarcely pausing to inhale. What proved astonishing was that amidst his unbroken stream of curses, there existed a certain cadence and tempo. He employed an extensive array of derogatory terms, each distinct from the last, without duplication. Almost as though he possessed a native fluency in the art of swearing. During the initial 60 seconds, Oliver maintained a reserved silence, but before long, his focus sharpened. He came to the realization that he wouldn't be able to perform the task he was engaged in if prompted. Indeed, individuals truly do shine within their distinct domains of expertise. Het. Why do you appear so captivated when I direct curses at your parents? Edith's perplexity grew due to Oliver's intrigue. His visage took on the hue of a fully ripened tomato due to the uninterrupted stream of profanities. As you're aware, I am an orphan. In a composed manner devoid of malice or ulterior motives, Oliver offered his response. Edith acknowledged this, yet the directness of the statement triggered a small pang of guilt that had long been buried in him. Oliver discerned this emotion. What I mean is, I'm all right, and the orphanage director once told me that parents of children like us are definitely irresponsible bastards, likely prostitutes. So, your remarks didn't truly insult them. Please don't concern yourself over it. Edith found himself even more unsettled by Oliver's unexpected retort. The situation seemed unjust. After all, he was the one who had been suddenly confronted and subjected to this absurd conversation. Why, then, was he burdened with guilt? Mr. Edith. Truly, no need to fret. Shut up. Please. Eventually, Edith raised a hand to silence Oliver and poured a drink, swiftly downing its contents. Observing him with quiet attention, Oliver cautiously inquired, "Did I make a mistake? I wonder, isn't your very existence a mistake?" That's a sentiment I've heard from the orphanage director as well. The notion that orphans like us are the outcomes of our parents' foolishness. Shut it. Edith erupted once more. Despite his outward anger, an increasing unease gnawed at him. Oliver resolved to remain silent for the present. For some inexplicable reason, each time he spoke, the situation seemed to deteriorate. In a short span, Edith had cycled through anger multiple times and now appeared visibly drained, despite his physical recovery owing to Oliver's blood elixir. He consistently emptied his glass, endeavoring to drown his discomfort. Silently, Oliver observed him, striving to ascertain where he had faltered. He thought that perhaps he made a mistake by getting straight to the point when they first met. According to negotiation books, it's important to create a relaxed atmosphere through humorous banter. Gaining financial support seems to be no small challenge. How did the professors succeed? Oliver felt afresh the weight of managing the orphanage's affairs. After a while, Edith finally broke the silence. This level of unfairness, it's been years since I've felt it so strongly. What's causing this sense of unfairness? Being summoned from my rest, subjected to matters unrelated to me, enduring the impertinence of someone soliciting money, feeling as if I'm the one at fault. I even had to tolerate being called fat and lustful. Realization dawned on Oliver. The professor I serve said that. You don't share that perspective. I, like you, Mr. Edith. With this, Edith took another gulp of the potent drink, as though his energy for anger had depleted. Should I remain silent once more? Edith nodded. He consumed numerous bottles of liquor, beckoned the attendants of Angel's house, and instructed them to fetch more, the strongest available. When a tray laden with fresh bottles arrived, Edith uncorked one and extended it to Oliver. Drink. Pardon. So, you need my money, right? Yes, it's quite difficult to fund it myself. Then, drink. If you want to get someone else's money, you should be able to fit in. Oliver readily complied, taking the bottle and beginning to pour it into a cup. Edith halted him. Don't sip, down it all in one go. Is there a reason? Because the one who's paying wants it? Indeed, a reasonable explanation. Obeying, Oliver swiftly consumed the potent liquor in a single draught. Edith uncorked another bottle, handed it to Oliver, who promptly finished its contents. When the replenished bottle was about half empty, Edith spoke. Damn it! This alcohol is so potent. Is it? Despite imbibing enough alcohol to induce inebriation, Oliver displayed no signs of intoxication. Having encountered diverse individuals in Landa, Edith was certain he wouldn't find anyone more peculiar than the man before him. What exactly is he? Edith pondered, a sense of helplessness enveloping him. Why did you confess that you were using a false identity within the magic tower? I needed assistance, and my understanding of the upper class is limited. Moreover, you are aware of my real name, so I believed honesty would be best while seeking your aid. That was the truth. During Oliver's encounter with Edith after rescuing Jane, a truth game ensued, during which Oliver disclosed his genuine name, Oliver. Though seemingly credible, the account was far from it. The gravity of Oliver's counterfeit identity within the magic tower was significant, a potential vulnerability. Of course, Oliver was in a position to control Edith's life with the elixir, but Edith knew well that he was not the type to do that. Beyond issues of character or disposition. So the more they talked, the more confused Edith became. To a frightening extent. If you needed money, you could have asked in a different way. Saying you needed more money for materials. Then I'd have to lie, and that's a bit. Also, I thought it would be good if you officially support. Then, it seems appropriate to tell you everything and ask for your favor. Edith's ire had subsided. Fatigue now dominated his emotions, a byproduct of his earlier anger. Fine. Whatever happens, I have no choice but to listen. Thank you. But why do you have no choice but to listen? Because you are the only one who can make the elixir that keeps me alive. How dare I refuse? Oh. Don't worry about that. That's that, and this is this, even if you refuse, I plan to continue to provide the elixir. Edith leaned upon the table, hands entwined. He was truly curious about what was going on in the mind of the warlock in front of him. To the point of wanting to dissect it and see for himself. I'm really curious. What would you do if I refused? Your only negotiation card is that. Or do you have a new negotiation card to persuade me? I thought about it but came empty-handed. I thought you would listen if I politely asked. If you were weaker than me, I would have beaten you with a bottle. Until you die. What will you do if I refuse? Then, I would ask Miss Jane. You despicable bastard. Edith commenced a barrage of swearing, resembling the rapid fire of a machine gun, persisting for roughly 10 minutes. Oliver mentioned that he and Jane were friends and that it was a request he could certainly make. However, this merely prolonged Edith's tirade by another 10 minutes, accompanied by his steady imbibing. Even though tangible progress eluded them and the count of empty bottles multiplied, Oliver's interest was decidedly piqued. For a brief interlude, he witnessed Edith's genuine concern for Jane, a momentary revelation born from Edith's early expenditure of emotions and subsequent emotional fatigue. Thus, apart from securing financial assistance, Oliver found some contentment in the present circumstances. He appeared to grasp the wisdom encapsulated in the adage that lending a hand to others often beckons assistance in return. Ha! Are you and Jane friends? Yes. Recall our encounter at the investment gathering. I do. How could I forget? We became friends there. I was happy because she accepted more readily than I thought. Happy? Yes. I don't have many friends. I think I can see why, looking at you. Ah. Did you have a lot of friends, Mr. Edith? Oliver's query emerged spontaneously, an instinctive response rather than a product of contemplation. However, to his surprise, Edith visibly flinched at the question, as though unintentionally brushing against a tender spot. Indeed. It represented a rather innocent period in my life. Belief in Santa Claus, the notion of a watchful deity, the idea that virtue begets eventual blessings, a source of personal pride even in the least. How naive I was. Fuck. Edith's confession bore sincerity, resonating with an air of authenticity. Finding pride in being virtuous. It seemed like a beautiful thought. Do you no longer hold to those ideals? Absolutely not. Alcohol, drugs, women. I'm even seated at the same table as a warlock. Ah. The bitch I'm living with now, I bought her with money. I forced her on the first night. When she didn't listen, I slapped her and beat her back with a leather belt. Until she licked my ass, and told me she loved me herself. I'm not particularly sorry. I bought her with my money, so I can do what I want with her, right? Edith's tone underwent a transformation from his usual demeanor. His tone wasn't authoritative, but rather in quest of concurrence. He was inebriated, not solely by alcohol, but also by his memories and emotions. It was akin to a long-standing dam crumbling under the weight of accumulated pressure. Driven by curiosity, Oliver probed further. Why did you relinquish that sense of pride? Living a virtuous life. It's a great thing. Snort. Are you serious? This is the best joke of the year. A solver who makes a living by pricing people's blood and flesh, and a warlock who uses people as materials, saying such things. That's why it feels more impressive. I thought I had no conscience, but you seem to be without one as well. Is that so? In my view. A kind of evil without evil, perhaps. Edith proclaimed as he sipped from his drink once again. His emotional restraint had undeniably eroded. It traces back to Jane's mother. Pardon. My current state of existence, it's all due to Jane's mother. Why so? She betrayed me and followed a rich man. Do you know what she said before she left? I'm not sure. She told me that my virtuous acts were a mere facade, masking my incompetence. She said that to my face. So, you delved into investing. Of course. I became curious, whether my goodness was real, or just a cover to hide my incompetence? I was consumed by this curiosity. Deliberately orchestrating an accident at a rival's factory in exchange for a bribe, and made money. Then I jumped into the stock market with that money. Surprisingly, I had a talent for stocks. You must have been pleased. Pleased. It turned out that my goodness was real, not a cover. And I learned a great lesson. What's that? People only exhibit respect when you inflict harm upon them. Edith's sentiments emanated with a profound authenticity, almost akin to a personal doctrine. Why, do you want to say something? No. I don't think I have the right to comment on such a thing. Regardless, when I felt I had amassed ample wealth, I indulged in the ultimate triumph that I had meticulously orchestrated. Miss Jane's mother. Yes. I wrecked her house with a lot of effort. I poured money to stop the income of that household, and led the husband into depravity with gambling, alcohol, and women. The head of the household was a decent guy, but I turned him into a cripple. I made him a wretch who couldn't even bark while I was fucking his wife on his bed. It was the best revenge, and then, Jane was born. Edith chuckled once more, reveling in a sense of elation. It was an intriguing phenomenon. Edith radiated happiness, yet beneath the surface, he harbored melancholy and rancor. And this is the answer to the question you've been curious about for a long time. The question. What I think about Jane. She represents a manifestation of my benevolence, retribution, and conquest. That's why I take care of her a bit. It's fun just to watch. Edith's words resonated with an air of truth, yet Oliver discerned the layers of emotions concealed beneath. Remorse, culpability, resentment, yearning, and regret all lay veiled. Yet Oliver chose not to explicitly address them. He had solved what he was curious about. Initially arriving for financial backing, he now reaped an unforeseen harvest. It's a big deal. I've revealed my most important card. Fuck. Alcohol is the enemy. I'm all the more grateful for that. Thanks to you, my curiosity has been somewhat satisfied. Regardless of whether you talk or not, I will continue to give you the elixir, so don't worry. Edith, who had bared his emotions and memories, appeared untroubled, contentedly appending an empty bottle. I appreciate it. You're consistently crazy. I'm so grateful I don't know what to do. Then, regarding this magic tower. This damn motherf. Chapter 319. Landa's summer possessed an enchanting allure, a distinction amidst the prevailing conditions. Reasonably so, as little else held such appeal. Being the world's most affluent, glamorous, and advanced city did not exempt it from an overcast climate. How else could one fathom the weather's alleged link to the city's distressing suicide rates? Nevertheless, summer emerged as an anomaly. Remarkably, the typically overcast Landa transformed into a haven of clarity and gentle warmth during the season. Proof lay in the surge of park-goers, seeking solace outdoors. Certainly, some souls met their demise during the ensuing cold nights, yet this narrative was unrelated to Theodore Brandt. Cold held no sway over him, the Grand Master of the esteemed school of life magic. Cold posed no threat. It's a nice bit of warmth, real comfy, eh? A voice resonated from Grand Master Theodore Brandt's chamber, the very heart of the school of life magic. Truly, a space reserved for his solitude. Unperturbed, he recognized the speaker's identity. You still got a knack for poppin' up out nowhere, Merlin. Leaning forward from his chair, Theodore caught sight of his lifelong friend, who had materialized through magic. Understand me, mate. You know I'm one for just showing up unannounced, don't ya? Besides, you sent a surprise invite to me and my disciple. Merlin gently placed the invitation he held onto the table's surface. The invitation extended a cordial summons to a collaborative conference between the School of Life Magic and Life Alchemy. Upon glancing at the invitation, Theodore stood from his seat. Remarkably, the figure that rose from the grand chair seemed far younger than an octogenarian. His appearance appeared to align more with someone in their late 30s or early 40s. Furthermore, his features possessed a striking attractiveness, easily capturing one's attention. At least, these were the standards prevailing in contemporary society. His artificially lustrous golden hair, reminiscent of his grandson's, kind and benevolent eyes, unblemished fair skin, a well-toned muscular frame, long legs, impeccable posture, and unaided vision all contributed to Theodore's captivating presence. It almost seemed as though he had been purposefully designed this way. This served as a clear exemplar of why numerous affluent individuals, including those in Landa, invested substantial sums into the School of Life Magic. In contrast, Merlin's countenance as he faced Theodore appeared somewhat pitiable. His visage bore the unmistakable marks of age, wrinkles etched like stories on his face, cheeks with a sunken aspect, a balding crown reminiscent of a peeled egg, and thinning hair with little remaining allure. Even the coat he wore appeared antiquated, accentuating his somewhat disheveled appearance. To an outsider's eyes, the camaraderie shared between these two, lifelong friends who acknowledged each other through the years, might seem an unexpected connection. Is it rude to ask a mate over just to show off what you've been working on? Don't ya remember I've left all that behind? Indeed, Merlin had once been deeply absorbed in eugenics, conducting a myriad of both lawful and illicit experiments on humans to an extent that even Theodore found disconcerting. Yet, one day, he abruptly relinquished his research. This occurred after he had ascended to the rank of archiver, surpassing even Theodore himself. This particular memory still bore a bitter tinge for Theodore. Maybe you've had a change of heart? Been a fair while, hasn't it? Not a change, a return. But still, I'll say no thanks, politely. That's a shame. I told folks you might be comin'. The ones at the conference'll be a bit let down. Sorry 'bout that, mate. You thinkin' of tellin' your disciple to stay home too? Him, what's his name, Kevin? That's right. I asked him, and he's keen. Said he couldn't pass up a chance like this. Smart kid. For someone of inferior breed. Hope you won't be stoppin' him. You're not part of the Magic Tower anymore. That's the plan. Is this conference your last hurrah? Last hurrah? What are you on about? I'll keep goin' as long as I'm breathin'. Just another step forward. Business as usual. This characteristic was quintessentially Theodore. He was unfamiliar with the concept of resting. This was why Merlin held his academic accomplishments in high regard, yet also nursed some concerns. A car in perpetual motion is destined to collide, such is the law of the world. Merlin desired to halt his friend, yet his hands were tied, and this was a source of lamentation. So, you're talking it easy in retirement, eh? What are you talking about? I'm retired, ain't I? Ah, right. Must have slipped my mind. Heard you were off in the sleeping forest to find a princess. You been keepin' tabs on me? Ha? No way. How game would I have to be to watch an archiver? I even acquiesced to your request, and let go of that warlock who suddenly intruded my laboratory. Theodore's sneer was overt. The discourse between these two men, who were gradually advancing in age, bore a slightly juvenile cadence, yet it attested to their enduring friendship. "I owe you one for that, mate. Don't worry about it. You must have had your reasons. That sleeping forest must be important. And just so you know, I didn't spy on you. Got mates who tell me things." Merlin opted not to elaborate further. Indeed, the pervasive influence of the school of life magic was undeniable, and he no longer wished to pry into his friend's affairs. Moreover, the clock has already started ticking, and rash interference was unwise. He could only navigate in accordance with the unfolding current. Merlin stood from his seat, ruminating on his impotence. Off so soon? Got research waitin'. You? Yeah. I've still got plenty to learn. So don't get too wrapped up in it all. We can't sort out the whole world, can we? Theodore remained silent. What words could he summon when confronted with an entity potentially several strides, if not more, ahead of himself? He simply offered a smile and refrained from further speech. "Take care, mate. Come back sometime, no need for a reason, we could just have a cold one." Merlin bid his friend farewell and departed, leaving Theodore to mutter softly, "That cheeky bloke." Swoosh. Swoosh. Oliver came to the deck and continuously listened to the sound of the sea. He looked around at the vast blue sea and the sky even bluer than the sea. It was quite a fresh experience. To be on a ship and out at sea. Not to boast, but since Landa was the largest city in the world, he thought he wouldn't see any more thrilling views, but it seemed to be a pleasant misconception. Being close to the ocean, which he had only seen from afar, was indeed refreshing. The icy land and the sea. They had a wonder different from human-made structures. He didn't know what he would see at the conference yet, but this alone was satisfying. "Is this your first time on a ship?" Kevin asked, coming up on the deck. As the red-skinned man appeared on the deck only available to first-class passengers, well-dressed guests threw curious glances, like a drop of water on an oil barrel. Those who looked like wizards ignored Kevin, knowing who he was, but ordinary passengers kept staring, as if seeing an exotic animal. "Yes, this is my first time on a ship." "That's surprising. I just never had the opportunity." "Have you been on a ship many times, Professor?" "Not that I wanted to, but yes, I have been. When I was a war wizard, I had to travel here and there. We'll be arriving at halfway soon." Halfway? A region across the Ceylon Sea on the continent. Located between Gallows and Central Mainland, it was the place where the conference would be held. Due to its geographical characteristics, it wasn't Gallows or Central Mainland, so interference was minimal, and safety was relatively assured. "That's a shame. I wanted to be on the ship a little longer." "You say that because you're in first class. Those in third class wouldn't." "Those in third class were students attending the conference with Edith's support. Their number was around 10. Originally, more students wanted to attend, but Edith, unwilling to support fools with his money, conducted one-on-one interviews to support only those he deemed worth the investment, leading to this small number. By the way, during this process, Edith had a brief and profound conversation with Kevin. "A fool. If you want to go somewhere but can't because you have no money, you're a fool, aren't you? You should even steal to make money." Oliver just quietly watched this unfold. It seemed he had done enough, and he thought that Edith's words made sense, so. Anyway, the students who had received Edith's support were going there in third class. "Do the students who really followed us really not need our guidance?" "Ah, I'm a professor, not a nanny." Besides our students, there will be other students, and the Magic Tower administration staff will guide them instead. Magic Tower hates professors neglecting their work for such matters. That seemed pretty good. Everyone could focus on their work. It's just like when I first left the mine. What? It's my first time on a boat, and my first time going abroad. It reminds me of when I was taken by my master and left the mine for the first time. Was it good? Yes, it was fine. The innkeeper and staff tried to kill my master and me, but overall, it was good. It was the first time I had been to the outside world. Kevin looked at Oliver in silence. Every time he asked a question, an unexpected answer came out. No, maybe it was good. It could be bad. Pardon. The place we're going is not entirely safe. Although it's near Gallows, it's also close to the mainland center. So don't be careless like when you first left the mine. I understand. But why are they holding the conference there? Oliver asked with real curiosity. Although he didn't know well, it seemed common sense to hold a conference in a safe place. Kevin answered. Places with guaranteed safety are under the jurisdiction of the state, and most of them have high interference. Magic Tower is an exception, but not a complete one. Anyway, we take risks in remote places to avoid interference. It's a common case. Like mountain pace. Also, many influential people come to the conference to network or trade. Anyway, they prefer a place without surveillance or interference, even if it's risky. I see. So be careful in many ways. Not only Magic Tower and Rokuri University, but also small and medium-sized magical families from the central continent will be there. If you make a mistake, it could be a headache. Oliver agreed, and the dock appeared in sight. They had arrived at halfway. Heeing. When they disembarked and picked up their luggage to take the reserved carriage to the conference venue, a minor hitch occurred. Many of the horses that were waiting for their reserved guests suddenly became frightened, uncontrollable, and unable to work. Tired passengers, already fatigued from the boat ride, became frustrated at the unexpected commotion, and the coachman also seemed troubled. It would be understandable if only one or two were behaving like this, but suddenly all the previously calm horses were frightened. As a result, the area around the dock fell into unexpected chaos. Nobody knew the reason why. Oh, correction. Only one person knew. Is there no way to ride a carriage? Oliver asked Felix, who was squeezed between the crowds. Felix answered with a troubled expression. There probably won't be. Well, you might find one, but it'll be very hard. Carriages are widely used here, not individual cars. As if it's some country village. Derek interjected with an irritated voice. Oliver looked at the coachman again. Over 100 horses continued to be restless, showing no signs of calming down. Oliver slipped through the crowd and whispered to Kevin. Professor. What? If it's not important, tell me later. It seems a bit important. Kevin looked at Oliver with a puzzled expression. What is it? Is it all right if I run there myself? You know where the conference venue is. I read the pamphlet before coming, and I checked the location on the latest map. I can go there. Did you check how far it is? I did. It will take some time, but if I stay here, it will continue to be delayed. What are you talking about? Animals seem to hate me. Though it was a sudden absurd statement, Kevin's face lit up with understanding. He had seen a spirit he summoned get scared of Oliver before. He was not only convinced but also wondered why he hadn't realized it before. What's the reason? I'm not sure. They just seem to dislike my smell. So you want to go alone? Why would he go alone? During Kevin and Oliver's conversation, an energetic voice naturally intervened. Turning their heads, they saw a man. It was Terence of the Rohr family, who had taken over for Oliver while he was on vacation. He raised his hand cheerfully. Hey! Chapter 320. Standing at an impressive 180 centimeters tall, Terence Rohr possessed a commanding presence. His broad shoulders and well-defined muscular build exuded strength. His hair was slicked back using pomade, complementing his neatly trimmed short beard. Terence Rohr acknowledged Oliver and Kevin's presence with a subtle wave of his hand. Kevin's surprise at Terence's appearance was swiftly replaced by a prompt reciprocation of the greeting, conveying his understanding. Likewise, Oliver courteously extended his own greeting to Terence. Having taken a break from his position, Oliver had embarked on a vacation. During his absence, Terence had not only performed admirably but had also treated him kindly. Admittedly, there was that one incident involving a potentially lethal punch, though accidents are a part of life, aren't they? Upon Kevin and Oliver's welcoming gestures, Derek and Felix also discreetly extended their greetings to Terence. Graciously, Terence acknowledged their greetings. "Ah, a pleasure to make your acquaintance. I'm Terence from the Rohr family. Quite the achievement to see that lone wolf embrace research associates, it must surely swell his pride. To assist and learn from him firsthand is an honor. He might be a bit rough around the edges, but his skills are truly remarkable." In contrast to Kevin's gruff demeanor, Terence warmly shook hands with Derek and Felix, engaging in a friendly conversation with them. Observing this interaction, Kevin let out a sigh. "Sigh. You managed to appear out of thin air. Care to share your secret?" "Wow. Who would have thought you'd miss me that much? Isn't it usually the other way around?" "Ha ha ha ha. Touché, Grumpy." Rather than responding to Kevin's brusque retort with a frown, Terence replied with genuine laughter. His laughter held a sincere quality, void of any pretense. This affable nature of Terence's was not new, his amicability towards Kevin had been evident previously. All the soldiers were so friendly to the professor. Oliver's memory harked back to the incident aboard the train to Mountain Pace. Upon learning that he was associated with Kevin as a personal employee, everyone had displayed a welcoming demeanor. This warmth extended beyond mere deference to the professor of Magic Tower, it was a reflection of genuine goodwill and respect for Kevin himself. It seemed that Kevin's tenure as a war wizard had left a positive impact, with him taking conscientious care of those around him. It's hardly surprising, given his role as a professor. Meanwhile, the dialogue between Terence and Kevin carried on. "As you're aware, I come from a privileged background. To the extent that my family name often precedes my own. Naturally, I arrived on a private passenger ship." Terence gestured toward a passenger ship moored not far from the pier, seemingly offering proof to his words. Surprisingly, the ship didn't differ significantly from the one Kevin and his group had boarded earlier. From Oliver's economic perspective, it appeared an opulent possession for an individual. Though you might be well off, remember that you're just one member of the extensive Rohr family. Owning something like that entirely by yourself. Ah, and there's the Brigadier General too. Mid-sentence, Kevin noticed something, prompting a smile from Terence. "You've got a keen eye. So, do you understand why I'm here? Follow me." With a resolute snap of his fingers, Terence signaled his decision, and Kevin, though somewhat reluctantly, followed suit. Kevin addressed Oliver, Derek, and Felix, issuing a directive, "You guys come too." "Ah ha ha ha. Lieutenant, it's been quite a while. You're looking well." Near the pier, away from the bustling thoroughfare where carriages waited, a sturdy makeshift chair accommodated a robust man in his 50s or 60s. He lounged there, patiently waiting for someone. His presence was undeniably remarkable. How to encapsulate him? Picture a fusion of rock and lion, or even a lion crafted from stone. His demeanor was as solid and courageous as his appearance. Standing over 2 meters tall, boasting broad shoulders, his brawny muscles projected an imposing aura, even beneath the layers of formal attire he wore. His physical form seemed more akin to a golem than a human. With his lion-like mane of hair and beard, his countenance exuded both gravity and intimidation. Beside him, even Terence and Kevin appeared diminutive. Truly an awe-inspiring sight. "Greetings, Brigadier General Philip. Have you been keeping well?" Philip Rohr responded. "What troubles could an old man like me encounter after retiring from the front line to concentrate on nurturing the next generation? By the way, did you pawn off your salute somewhere?" Despite his rugged exterior, Philip emanated an affable and jolly demeanor, occasionally punctuated by a touch of intimidation. It was like witnessing a lion jesting with a herbivore. Yet, Kevin was far from a herbivore. Undaunted, he responded without hesitation. "I've transitioned from a soldier to a professor at Magic Tower. That's the one decision I constantly regret. I should have stuck with it, unwavering and without overthinking." To Kevin's surprise, Philip's response held sincerity rather than jest. He seemed genuinely burdened by some unspoken reason. Then, as if struck by a sudden idea, Philip continued. "Oh, I see. Do you have a woman in your life? Someone for casual enjoyment or perhaps a potential life partner?" "Pardon me." Caught off guard by the abrupt personal inquiry, Kevin arched an eyebrow and posed a counter-question, his confusion and discomfort evident. Yet, embodying his unmistakable self-assuredness and pride, Philip breezily brushed aside any minor irritation and reiterated his query. "Do you have a woman? A partner? Whether it's a serious relationship or something more casual. At my age, such questions are well within reason." "Ha. I don't think that's suitable for discussion in front of the researchers and staff." Only then did Philip turn his gaze towards Oliver, Felix, and Derek. "Ah, my apologies. Allow me to properly introduce myself. Gentlemen, I am Philip Rohr, the patriarch of the Rohr family, a lineage that has steadfastly bolstered a core of the kingdom's army for over a century. I assume you are all quite familiar with our family?" Philip inquired confidently, his familial pride apparent. Derek and Felix confirmed their acquaintance, while Oliver remained an exception. "I'm not well versed in the details." A dense silence, as weighty as iron, suddenly descended upon the atmosphere. All eyes fixed on Oliver. The unease was palpable, their expressions awash with perplexity. With a questioning look, Oliver turned to Kevin, seeking guidance. "Did I make a mistake? A rather big one?" Kevin's silent response conveyed the gravity of the situation. Oliver hastened to amend his earlier response. "The family emblem features a lion, denoting a prestigious lineage of military wizards renowned for their contributions in both colonial and continental conflicts. That's the extent of my detailed knowledge." In haste, Oliver recounted what he had learned from Murphy's second request, which he acquired while quelling a dispute involving a student from the Rohr family during a mission. Ha. Well, that's a relief. I feared, Kevin, that you were shepherding someone bereft of common knowledge. Thankfully, he has a foundational understanding. Why did you assert you were unaware? Philip's countenance softened as he inquired again, a sense of relief emanating from him. I apologize. My familiarity with the Rohr family is limited to the extent I mentioned earlier. Claiming a deeper knowledge would have seemed disrespectful to you. Ho ho. You're not mistaken. Asserting familiarity with the Rohr family based on that scant information would indeed be misguided. Philip pondered, resting a ponderous finger against his chin. Falling under the grasp of that thick hand could be as dire as the bite of a lion. At least you're straightforward and honest. A commendable trait. Would you like to learn more about our family? Kevin glanced at Oliver, who replied, if you're willing to share, I'm eager to listen. Is that a sincere sentiment? Yes, absolutely. I'm genuinely intrigued by the Rohr family's unique connection to the kingdom's military as wizards, as well as your involvement in colonial conflicts. I also have a few personal inquiries. Oliver candidly voiced his curiosity, and his earnestness reached Philip. Philip's mouth, reminiscent of a lion's jaw, curved into a smile. That was affirmation. Het. You're quite the intriguing character. When I heard that Kevin had hired new staff, I anticipated something out of the ordinary, but this surpasses my expectations. I apologize. I'll make sure to provide him with better education. No need, no need. It's a compliment. I find it refreshing. Are you interested in learning about our family? Yes, if you tell me, I'll gladly learn. Excellent, I like your enthusiasm. Lieutenant Kevin, join me. Yes. Don't appear as though you're averse to it. You're well aware I won't simply let you off because you seem reluctant, correct? Plus, we don't have proper transportation here. Philip gestured toward the still crowded road. As Oliver moved a bit away, the horses began to calm down, yet due to the accumulation of passengers until now, they were still in a state of unrest. It was evident that leaving now would result in a loss of roughly half a day's time. Kevin, who held a distaste for wasting time, eventually acquiesced. Ha! Well then, I'll be in your care. I appreciate that. It would have been more pleasing without the sigh, though. By any chance, did you arrange for a separate carriage? Kevin belatedly recalled that the horses were unsettled by Oliver's presence and inquired. If they needed a carriage, it would require some rearrangements. Oliver might need to travel separately. Thankfully, Philip shook his head. Do you believe that I, a gentleman from the world's most advanced kingdom, an esteemed Grand Master of the Pure Magic School, the head of the Royal Wizard Academy, the overseer of the Royal Magic Research Department, and the leader of the Rohr family, would resort to such outdated means of transportation? Then, did you bring automobiles on the passenger ship? Ah! You're partly right, partly mistaken. Since leaving the military, you have lost your touch. Philip expressed a hint of lament before extending his hand to an attendant woman nearby. This plump woman, her gaze sharp, retrieved a travel bag from the pile of luggage on the ground. Though it appeared to be an ordinary bag, Oliver's keen eyes detected an array of magical spells woven into the items within. Advanced reduction magic, lightning magic, shock absorption magic. These were rudimentary spells in themselves, but their complexity could significantly differ based on the intended object. Curiosity piqued, he wondered about the bag's contents. Click. Philip unzipped the bag, unveiling a small model car within. a meticulously crafted model. Yet, it wasn't long before the realization struck that this was no mere model, it was a fully functional automobile. It's an actual automobile. If I were to carry around toy cars at my age, wouldn't it invite ridicule? With that remark, Philip set down the quartet of miniaturized vehicles onto the ground. Kevin, Derek, Felix, and even Oliver stared in amazement at the unfolding spectacle. As previously noted, the magic of reduction, lightning, and shock absorption belong to the fundamentals of pure magic. Yet, their complexity could escalate dramatically based on the object in question. The larger, weightier, and more intricate an object's internal structure, the greater the intricacy required for casting the spell, the contrast could be as profound as night and day. When applied to an automobile with an average of 30,000 components, the challenge bordered on the unimaginable. Factoring in the necessity of sustaining the reduced, lightweight, shock-absorbing state over a prolonged duration only compounded the level of intricacy. Philip's immense wellspring of inherent mana and the artful flow of his mana were indications of his extraordinary nature, but this transcended those attributes. Snap dash. Philip snapped his substantial finger, dispelling the magic, and the line of cars reverted to their original proportions. Despite exuding an appearance akin to armored vehicles, the backdrop of blue combined with the gilded lion emblem lent an air of opulence. All eyes in the vicinity converged upon the cars, an unmistakable testament to their allure. Philip spoke with an air of pride. "We have 4 cars at our disposal, allowing each of you to ride in comfort. Lieutenant Kevin, you'll accompany me in my car." "Yes, understood. The rest of you, hop in the back." As Kevin directed Oliver, Derek, and Felix toward the vehicle at the rear, Philip interjected. "Hold on, that friend should ride with you too." "You're referring to Zenon?" "Indeed, I just agreed to enlighten him about our family, didn't I?"